Well, hello there, and today we are doing the top 10 tips for Peru on GeoGuessr. Tip number 1. The easiest way to confirm Peru as a country is looking at their signposts. Their signposts have a zebra pattern. On the right, we also have a unique sign for Peru, and it is this concrete at the bottom of the signpost. Tip number 2. Peru has two different license plates that you should know about. Most Peruvian plates will be white, but you can get bright yellow plates on commercial and working vehicles. They are different to Colombia's. Colombia's appear much more darker. Tip number 3. Peru has two different types of Google cars in camera generation 3 that are either black or white. The white car you can't really use as much to separate it from other countries, but if you have a black vehicle and you're split between a Peru or Bolivia or a Peru or Chile, Chile and Bolivia will not have a black Google car, so that's a great way of confirming Peru. But be aware that Argentina can look similar to Peru at times, but they will have a black Google car as well. Tip number 4. In Peru, you can find road markers like this, and the way you use them is you look at the number underneath the PE, because that is the road number which confirms which road you are on. If you know what the numbers mean underneath, feel free to comment down below. Tip number 5. Here we have a map that compares the three main different types of regions in Peru based off environment. You have the coast region, which is the smallest region of Peru, but also the most important. And then you have a highland region, which is where you get most of the mountains at, which is kind of more towards the middle of the country. And then you have the jungle region, which is more towards like Amazon, kind of like rainforest. It's also important to be aware of Puerto Maldonado, Iquitos, and Pucallpa, because those are very green regions and they're also very flat. Tip number 6. The next step for getting better at region guessing in Peru is actually working out where the mountains are. So as you can tell on the map on the left, the largest mountains are found in the middle of the country. It gets greater than 4,000 meters more towards the south, but it kind of spreads towards the northeast, but doesn't go too far north. So there's quite a distinctive mountain chain here. The tallest mountains appear to be towards the far south, but you do get some more towards the center and kind of north of the country as well. And as you can tell, you've got the surroundings in orange, so this is like more towards 4,000 meters. So maybe where you won't get as much, snow top mountains, maybe those will be more towards 2,000 meters. And then you've got more of the flat terrain, which is generally the coast or the Amazon in general. Here's a more detail about that, kind of makes it stand out more. So as you can tell, it kind of gets darker and more green the more mountainous it gets. Juarez is a very good example of one place that is extremely mountainous, and you've also got Machu Picchu as well. That's a very mountainous area as well. Tip number 7. You can identify far north Peru by its very flat landscape with quite a good mixture of shrub and sparse vegetation. It is quite different to the rest of Peru. It's also a lot less hillier. You're also generally not far off from sea, and I think the region is called Piuru, Piuru, or however you pronounce it. Tip number 8. So Peru will have a lot of agriculture, a lot of farming going on. Most of its agriculture is along the coastline. You will get sugarcane, cotton and rice farms along the coast. Generally, you would find more towards, Lima or north of Lima. And for sugarcanes, I tend to find it more towards north of Lima, so like Trujillo or Chiclayo. But you can also get really far south near Molendo. So it kind of varies depending on the terrain you're at. So you can kind of use the terrain and the sugarcane to kind of narrow down where you think it is. It says here on this article that La Libertad produces over half of Peru's sugar, and then you have Lambayeque with 30%. You can also get 70% in Lima, but it's always good to hedge because you can also get the rare case down south, but generally it's around here or around here. And you can kind of tell this map symbolizes where the sugarcane is at. If you look more at this map, you can kind of see several different patterns. You also get wheat, barley, corn and potatoes kind of more spread out in the upland areas. Cultivated uplands seems to be more spread out and limited according to this map, but I don't know how accurate this map is, but I think it's a good starting point. But you can tell that Cusco, Huancayo, and Juarez, so those are the three main kind of regions-ish where you would find the supposed agriculture, but coffee is also very limited, so you get it quite out the way, and they tend to be separate from the actual, wheat barn and corn farms. So I mean, you've got some near Cusco, you've got some between Huancayo and Huánuco, but you've also got one all the way around or near the outskirts of Huánuco, and you've got a couple along the rivers further north as well. You can also use this for mining, so you've got all the symbols for the different types of mining areas there is, and as you can tell, most of it is towards the middle, but you could get some towards the Bolivia border. You can get the odd one really far south near Tacna, but you can sometimes get them north as well. Here are 3 images of the production in Peru for corn, rice, and coffee. So as you can tell, most of the production for corn is more towards the states along the coast, but you can also get it kind of away from the coast in San Martin. The rice production is a different story. You tend to get it more north. There's some of it down south, but most of it is found in the north parts. If you see rice, it's maybe more likely to see it towards the north because that's where it's most likely produced. But like I say, it doesn't necessarily correlate because you can get rice farms much further south. Comment down below how effective these maps have been when you practice Peru recently with vegetation. And finally, you've got coffee production, which kind of follows a similar pattern to the map, where you kind of get it nowhere on the coast, but you tend to get it more towards the far north of the country or along the middle. Tip number 9. If you're in Peru and you get this Google cart, you can only be on this specific road. Here is a close look of what the road is. It is the 120, and I'll quickly show you where it is now. Here is the road for this unique Google cart, and as you can tell, it is on the 120. The best way to identify where this is, you resume into this reserve, which is quite in the middle of the country, quite visible to find. You zoom towards it and you should meet the 120, and it was towards these 2 lakes. And tip number 10. There is also another very rare Google car you get in Peru with this white at the front and then kind of like a lot of rope gear at the back. And this is found in Machu Picchu, which is not far of Cusco. And if you follow these instructions, you'll be able to find it, but I'll show you where it is now. So here is where the Google car is found, and you've got Machu Picchu here. So you zoom out, and you remember Machu Picchu. So you zoom out here, and let's say you found the car and you don't know where it is. The first thing to remember is Cusco, then you go to Aguas Calientes, and then you go to Machu Picchu, and here it is. And that is all. Those were the top 10 tips for Peru in GeoGuessr, and the next country will be Bolivia. Yeah, of course.